75.31, the pound buying $1.25 and €1.11. LBC weather, clear spells for most of the UK tonight, but thicker cloud and showers arriving in Northern Ireland and Western Scotland ahead of dawn, a low of 8. Tomorrow, occasional heavy rain across the Midlands, Wales and the far north, dry and warm elsewhere with a high of 27 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Lisa Aziz.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation. The Nigel Farage Show.
Mr. Nigel Farage.
Thank you, Donald, and good evening, everybody. Well, as Foreign Secretary Jeremy Hunt goes to Brussels to discuss worsening tensions with Iran, I'm going to be asking you, do you support the American approach, which is to say the Iranian regime are the bad guys, they've broken all the rules of the deal, or do you support the European view, which is let's try and keep the arrangement going? Before I start on that, I simply have to say something about the fact that the England cricket team are going tonight to Downing Street to a reception. I was there at Lord's yesterday. I've spent the last 40 years going to high-profile sporting events. Never have I attended anything like it. And what a joy that it was available on terrestrial television with up to 8.3 million people watching it, and now tens of millions of people watching clips from that game yesterday. And all my friends in America are saying, gee, this cricket, it looks really exciting. Well, sometimes it can look a bit like paint drying, I know, but well done, England. And one thing this country loves is a bit of sporting success. So, to the heart of it, Obama and the European Union put together a deal a couple of years back with Iran. The deal was simple. We lift a lot of economic sanctions. We start to make life easier by opening up markets for Iran. And in return, they will stop enriching uranium at the rate they have been because, of course, they wanted to develop their own nuclear weapons, the Iran nuclear deal. Now, what has happened in those intervening years? There is no doubt that Iran have broken the rules. They have continued to enrich uranium. Even Jeremy Hunt, the Foreign Secretary, admits himself they have been breaching the rules. But also, the idea was that if Iran was opened up, she herself would become a rather more liberal country. But all the intelligence reports suggest that they've used the increased money and trade flows to continue funding terrorist organizations all over the Middle East. That is why Donald Trump pulled out, got the US out of this deal and started to put back on some very, very tough sanctions. As you know, just off Gibraltar last week, the Royal Marines stopped an oil tanker that was taking Iranian oil to Syria. And, of course, we had a British merchant vessel menaced in the Gulf last week. So the stakes are suddenly very, very high. Jeremy Hunt, Theresa May have consistently taken the same position as the European Union. And in general terms, we don't really do foreign policy anymore as an independent country. We tend to go with the EU view. Hunt has been to Brussels today. Here he was speaking to reporters.
The thing that we agree with the Americans on is that the long-term solution to the tensions in the Middle East is an Iran which ceases the destabilizing activity that's happening in Iraq, in Syria, in Lebanon.
Exactly.
And that is the root cause of the problems. We have a different view as to how we keep the region denuclearized, but we have very open channels of communication on that. And I spoke to Secretary of State Pompeo yesterday, as well as talking to Foreign Minister Zarif in Iran the day before. But what the US knows is that we consider them our closest ally. We believe the alliance between the UK and the US has been the foundation of global peace and prosperity over the last 75 years. But friends sometimes disagree, and when we do so openly. This is one of the very rare occasions when we do disagree, but that doesn't mean we don't work very closely with them in the pursuit of peace.
And, of course, Sir Kim Darroch, who, of course, resigned last week as the UK's ambassador to Washington, in yesterday's Mail on Sunday's second set of revelations, he said that Trump had broken the Iran deal simply to spite the legacy of Obama. I don't believe that. I think the Americans think that Iran have abused their position. Jeremy Hunt himself there is admitting they've broken all the rules in every way. And to me, the lesson of history is if you appease fanatical regimes, all they will do is take you for a ride and want more and more. And come on, let's be honest, this regime has been in place in Iran for 40 years. They are a truly appalling regime in terms of human rights, treatment of women, minorities, etc. They're an appalling regime. We seem to be terribly keen to have regime change in Iraq and in Libya, and yet for some reason this big decision's been made that will support the continuing existence of this appalling regime in Iran. I have to say on this, I do think the Americans are right. I think if you strike an international deal, if the other term breaks the terms of it, you then break the deal. And if they then want to come back to the table and negotiate again, that's fine. I think the mission that Hunt is on is the wrong one. That is my view, but tell me what you think, please. And if you think, as I do, that it's an appalling regime, we shouldn't appease them, call 0345 6060 973. Maybe you think, no, we need to be emollient, the stakes are very high, then do text to 84850 and tell me, I mean, can you name a worse regime in the country, in the whole world, than Iran? Because I can't. Please tweet using the hashtag Farage and LBC at LBC, and our growing number of fans on Facebook, Periscope and YouTube, you comment and join in too. My first caller is Iranian, and he's Abe, and he's calling from Twickenham. Good evening to you.
Good evening, Mr. Farage.
So, which is the right approach? Is it the American approach to say that the regime have broken all the rules, or is it the European Union and Jeremy Hunt line, which is to try and keep the deal going?
First of all, thank you very much, Mr. Farage, for taking my call.
Not at all.
And secondly, that I have been living in the UK for the last 42 years, and I have to disagree with you for the fact that the Americans are taking the wrong approach to Iran. And they have got to change that approach and, not to go to war with Iran. Because Iran is a big country with 80 million people in it. And they don't deserve what you're suggesting, that the revolution happened and stuff like that, that they go through another revolution. It would be like a second Iraq.
But do you think? Obviously, you left just before the revolution. But I mean, isn't there an argument? And by the way, I've met Iranians all over the world and worked with them too, and many of them the most educated and marvelous people.
Yes.
And don't the Iranian people deserve better than this appalling regime they've got?
But that's not the way to go forward. I think the way forward would be for the Iranians to change if they want to change the regime, but not for the Americans to do that. Or
How do you change when you're living in a country with a regime as oppressive as this one? How do you change that regime?
Well, that's the same way that they changed the Shah. They thought they would get a better deal with if they have a revolution. So that's up to them. If they want to live the way they want to live, that's up to them. But it's no point for the Americans or the British or the Europeans to impose their will on them. So
I don't want a war. I don't want a war with Iran, and Trump does not want a war with Iran. Of that, I'm very certain. He's not a warmonger. But come on, let's be honest. This deal, all the high hopes and expectations, the Iranians have simply not played ball, have they?
Well, no. I mean, you're talking about, we can't appease the aggressor and stuff like that. It's fair enough, if you go with the history and not appeasing, the Nazis in the Second World War and all that sort of stuff. But at the moment, you've got, very hardliners in America. Even Trump, for example, you're talking, President Trump, he's a hardliner.
No, he's not. He's not. I disagree with you. The previous presidents were hardliners. The previous three presidents went to war at the drop of a hat. Trump does not want to do that.
But I understand he doesn't want to. I mean, not putting these sanctions on Iran is not effective. What is it going to achieve with putting sanctions? It's going to create an atmosphere that they would start a war, and also that. Second to that, I don't want, for example, this country that I have been living for the last 42 years and I love, to go into a war with the country that I was born with. And
I don't want to go. I don't want to go to a war either. Should we just continue?
This country shouldn't back up the Americans, because, when you get all these fanatics then, attacking and this and the other, I don't want my children, I live in London, in Twickenham, going to central London and having fears that this or the other happens.
All right. Are you suggesting that the Hunt approach is right, that we negotiate, as Hunt has been doing and the other European leaders have been doing today with the Iranian government? You think we should try to keep this deal going, yeah?
Oh, yes, I do. I mean, we cannot say, Mr. Farage, that, the Russians, the Chinese, the Germans, the British and the French, they don't know what they're talking about, and only the Americans they know.
Well, I think the French, of course, have considerable financial interest in Iran, don't they?
But why not?
Am I being cynical?
I'm being an Iranian, and my whole family, they are all Brexiteers as well. You've got 80 million people there. This country could do very well if they come out of the EU and do trade with Iran. Why not? There is a lot of respect in Iran for UK.
No, if we had a good regime in Iran that started to treat their own people with a bit of dignity and respect, and it was a proper democratic state, I think that's what we'd do. Abi, thank you very much indeed for your call, for your thoughts. Peter says, Iran, Trump's got it right. David says, I usually support President Trump, but on his withdrawal from the Iran deal, I do not. He's made a grave mistake. Tom in Basingstoke says, May, Hunt and the EU are appeasers. They should learn from history. And I'm afraid that's what I think too. I'm all for doing deals, but if the other side break the rules and you go begging back to them and say, oh, come on, please be good boys, they're just not going to do it. I think the Americans are right on this and the EU is wrong. Some of you will say, well, of course he would say that, wouldn't he? But that is genuinely what I think. Tell me I'm wrong. 0345 6060 973. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, live from the European Parliament in Strasbourg. It's now 6:15 and time for the news headlines with Lisa Aziz.
The US Democrat Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says she feels President Trump's critical tweets about her ethnic background and 3 other female congresswomen were deliberate to divide Americans. Hundreds of environmental campaigners from Extinction Rebellion are staging what they call a summer uprising in 5 UK cities by trying to block roads with colourful boats, including the Strand, outside the Royal Courts of Justice in London. The Queen's congratulated the England cricket team, who are due for a reception at Downing Street after their historic World Cup victory over New Zealand in one of the most dramatic finals ever seen. LBC weather, clear spells for most of the country tonight, thicker cloud and showers though arriving in Northern Ireland and Western Scotland later, a low of 8 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm J. Louise Knight, and the M4 is solid out of town from the Chiswick roundabout to an earlier accident at Heston at Junction 3, although all lanes have just reopened. The Surrey stretch of the M25 crawling anti-clockwise this evening from the Cobham services to an earlier lorry fire near Reigate at Junction 8. Now in the centre of town, a demo closed the Strand earlier from Aldwych to Chancery Lane. It's now on the move. It's currently heading south over Waterloo Bridge at the moment, so that's causing some delays. And then all sectors very busy both ways this evening between Hang Lane Gyratory and Staples Corner. Onto the trains, London Overground are suspended from Hackney Downs to Chingford, as well as from Wilson Junction to Clapham Junction, and Southern services can't run northbound from Shepherd's Bush to Watford Junction.
LBC.
E.ON's just become the UK's largest 100% renewable electricity supplier, meaning 3.3 million E.ON homes are now backed by 100% renewable electricity. That's 100% electricity matched with 100% renewable sources. Not only is that 100% brilliant for our customers, it's 100% brilliant for the UK. So, are you ready to join the millions waking up to 100% renewable electricity every day? Find out more at eonenergy.com/renewable. E.ON. Tomorrow is on.
LBC.
I'm not the most natural of dancers, as anybody who see me at a wedding would probably testify, but I'll give it a go. And now Tesco are bringing the nation together with Dance Beats, an amazing dance marathon raising money for some brilliant charities.
July 18th to the 20th, get involved with Dance Beats and raise money for Cancer Research UK, the British Heart Foundation and Diabetes UK. It's your chance to step up, shake it down and move your feet to help beat cancer, beat heart diseases and fight diabetes. Whether you dance at home or at your local Tesco store, get involved. Search Tesco Dance Beats to find out more. LBC supports this message.
Your company's doing pretty well. Your tax position's okay. So what's keeping you awake at night?
To face the future with confidence, talk to Vision Consulting. We've expanded from Gants Hill to the Gherkin, with clients from the fishmonger to the multi-million-pound property investment company. And our growth as a firm of chartered accountants and registered auditors is based on our passion for our clients' business.
Have confidence in your accountant. See visionconsulting.co.uk.
Divorce can be expensive. It affects your finances, assets, home, savings, pension, and most of all, your relationship with your children. It's probably one of the toughest times you'll ever go through. Cordell & Cordell understands these issues and helps men maximise their roles in their children's lives. Call now on 0330 60 60 161 or visit cordellcordell.co.uk. Office in central London. A partner men can count on.
Clearance at John Lewis & Partners is now on. There are thousands of great offers across all your favourite brands, from kitchen and homeware to fashion and beauty, as well as expert advice from our partners and a minimum 2-year guarantee on all our electricals. More of what you love for less. Clearance. Ends Sunday.
If you lost money on an investment sold by a bank, find out how much you could be owed in compensation. Text GOOD to 60777 and Goodwin Barrett will call you back.
This is LBC, live from Strasbourg, the Nigel Farage Show. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag Farage on LBC.
Jeremy Hunt goes to Brussels as Foreign Secretary and tries to save the Iran nuclear deal. The Americans, of course, have pulled out of it, and the Iranians are behaving very, very badly. Which approach is the right one? The EU one, to continue with the deal, or the American one to say, guys, you've broken the rules, you are bad people. Now, before I do that, fascinating. When I met President Trump when he was over on his trip a few weeks ago, and I met his entourage, I asked a question. I said, how far have talks got between us and you guys about a post-Brexit trade deal? And the officials that had come over with the president examined their toe caps and didn't sort of say very much at all. But I was able to ascertain that basically nothing had been done at all. I mean, literally nothing had been done at all. And I was amazed by that. So I said, right, okay, I'm going to put together a team of industrialists and business people to go over in September to Washington, D.C. to meet Bob Lighthizer, who is the US trade negotiator, and let's start getting some proper conversations going. So Boris Johnson yesterday says he will, very quickly after he becomes PM, put together a team of business people to go over to DC to negotiate trade. OK, Boris, if you want to wear my clothes, that is fine, that's good, it's in my national interest. But I tell you what's astonishing. Liam Fox, and he is the cabinet minister in charge of putting together trade deals, who supports Jeremy Hunt, despite the fact he was a Brexiteer in the campaign. He told BBC's Today programme this morning, we can't negotiate anything with the USA until after we've left the European Union. It would be in breach of European law for us to do that. And that's what the EU want, isn't it? They want us to leave without having sorted anything out at all, because that makes it more difficult for us to leave. And I cannot believe that Liam Fox has turned around like this. I cannot believe that Liam Fox wants us to dance to the tune of the European Union. I do understand legally we can't sign a new trade deal with America or anybody else until we leave. But for goodness sake, of course we can negotiate it. And if the EU don't like it, tough luck. What has happened to you, Liam Fox? Gosh. I am going to go and speak to Mike in Newham. Hi, Mike.
Hey, Nigel. How's it going?
It's going well. So Hunt is over there desperately trying to save this deal with Iran. They've broken all the rules of the agreement. Is Hunt right to do this?
I think he's right to go and salvage what's the rest of the Iran deal. But I have to say I'm actually quite disappointed in Trump, because I thought he got elected on a kind of like non-interventionist platform. I know a lot of people did vote for him for that. I mean, I didn't support him, but I thought at least he's not going to start wars in other countries. But so far he's supported
which he hasn't been doing.
Change. Can I finish my point? He supported regime change in Venezuela, in Syria. And now it looks like, and I don't think it's him, he's basically a puppet of John Bolton and the other warmongers he's appointed in his cabinet. And it looks like we're going to possibly it could end up in nuclear war with what he's doing. So, I mean, I don't think we can really say he's, a non-interventionist. We can see that. so much he's done. But
well, I think in the case of hang on, Mike. I mean, there was a planned military strike, wasn't there, against Iranian targets a couple of weeks ago? Yeah. And what happened? Yeah. What happened was the American president personally intervened and stop that from happening. Mike, whatever you may think of Trump, whatever any of you, and particularly today when he's made a few, once again, comments that have really upset everybody, but he actually is a military non-interventionist. It's important to remember that.
Okay. You asked another point about what other regimes are as worse as Iran.
Yeah.
Well, I can name two: Saudi Arabia, that we sell weapons to, the same people that the royal family goes and helps sell weapons to, and Israel, who are murdering innocent Palestinians every day. I think they're equally as bad regimes.
Well, I would say in the case of Israel. In the case of Israel, you've got to remember their position. They are surrounded by a group of countries that want to obliterate them. It does make life very difficult for them. So I have quite a lot of sympathy for the Israeli regime. Saudi Arabia, you raise a very interesting moral point. If H from St. John's Wood texts in to say Saudi Arabia, that's all I have to say to you. I have to say, Mike, I do agree with you. I think that one of the main exports that has come from Saudi Arabia has been this Wahhabi strain of really extremist ideology, and they've used it and funded organisations in Britain and around the rest of Europe. And I've got some real reservations about Saudi Arabia. But on Iran, Mike, so do you agree when the Foreign Secretary says that at every level, basically, Iran have broken the terms of the agreement? Does it really make sense to you to try and continue it?
Well, to be honest, I don't think it's about breaking terms of an agreement. I think it's all about oil. It's like Iran, it's like Iraq, like Afghanistan. We don't intervene. It's all because of oil and all about military bases in other countries in the Middle East.
I think oil is diminishing as a factor because, and this is really interesting, isn't it? That all the wars, it's the Americans, it's oil. Actually, within a couple of years, the Americans are going to be an exporter of energy, not an importer of energy. So I think the oil question is actually less important than it's been at any point in the last 50 years. Mike, thank you for your call. Thank you for your thoughts. I'm going to speak to Claire in Edgware, who's a new caller to this show. Claire, good evening.
Yes, good afternoon. Well, the IAEA said that the UN Nuclear Monitoring Agency said that Iran continues to comply with the 2015 nuclear deal. And as we heard from our previous UN ambassador, the only reason that Trump wants to subvert and undermine the deal is because it was negotiated by Obama. But this is ridiculous. I don't have a great deal of time for Jeremy Hunt because I work in the health service. But on this, he is absolutely right. This man-child, this man who's got this so-called president who has chronic arrested development issues, is going to catapult the world into a third world war. For no good reason. I do not support Iran as a woman, obviously. Iran has the highest levels of osteoporosis in the world because of their stupid clothes that they impose on women that is bankrupting their health service. But Iran is complying. And so, therefore, we have got to stop
Jeremy
jumping
Hunt,
to the tune.
Claire, Jeremy Hunt says they're not complying.
And the Saudi regime, who want Iran neutered because they want their enemies out of the way, and at the same time drag the international community into a third world war. We have got to stand with
Claire,
hang
on. I think, Claire, you really have got the wrong end of the stick here. This is the same American president who's entered into talks with the North Koreans, who even stepped over the border into North Korea the other day. This is, unlike the warmongers, the warmonger Obama, the warmonger Clinton, the warmonger Bushes. This is not a warmongering American president. Do you accept that
North Korea
point?
will never get rid of its nuclear weapons. It's too smart. As soon as it gets rid of its nuclear weapons, America will invade. We have got to stop jumping to the Saudi and apartheid Israel's tune. We've got to stand with the international community. Iran is complying. I've no brief for Iran. I think it's atavistic. I think it's backward. I think its attitude to homosexuals and women is disgusting. But you seem to believe they are complying with the nuclear deal, and that's what it's about.
Claire, even Jeremy Hunt, who is pro-continuing the deal, accepts and has publicly said they're breaking the terms of a deal.
Look, I don't care what Jeremy Hunt, anybody.
Oh,
the
right.
UN agency said they are complying with the terms of the nuclear deal,
and nobody believes them. And nobody believes them. Nobody, including our Foreign Secretary, believes them. So, Claire, let me ask you just very quickly, what do we do with Iran? Do we just continue as we are and pretend nothing's gone wrong?
We stand with the international community. We have got to stand with the rest of the world.
Even if they're wrong.
We have got to support the JCPOA deal. We've got to keep Iran in the fold, because as Iran, as your previous contributor said, the Iranian chap, you are dealing with a 4,000-year-old culture. You're dealing with one of the most highly educated societies in the world. Iran already has a nuclear capability. Nobody can stop them. And if they are complying with the deal, they are complying with the letter of the deal, we have got to support it. We cannot allow these people to catapult us into a third world war. Why can't you understand that, Nigel?
Because I think you're dead wrong. That's why Trump is not a warmonger, but your prejudice against him is so deep, perhaps for other reasons. I don't know. Claire, thank you. And Claire, very trusting of the Iranians. She's, I suspect, in quite a small minority. John from Wales says, "Hi, Nigel. For the first time ever, I disagree with you, but I agree with the first caller. The US should keep their threats to themselves." Well, the US are allowed to put sanctions on countries, aren't they? I mean, we put sanctions on countries. Marion says, "Iran is dangerous and needs to be stopped. I support Trump's view 100%. On Twitter, I get Iran did not break the nuclear deal. Trump did. Trump is more of a threat to global peace than Iran." Doreen, just because you don't like Trump, trotting out this line that he's a threat to global peace when actually his actions have been very different to many previous American presidents just does not add up and does not make any sense to me at all. I think Iran, I think it is the most appalling, awful regime. They've broken the terms of their deal with us. The Foreign Secretary agrees to that. I can't see why we should continue to help them, why we should go on appeasing them. They will simply laugh at us and walk all over us. You're listening to The Nigel Farage Show here on LBC, live from Strasbourg. It's now time for the news with Lisa Aziz.
The US Democrat Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says she feels President Trump's critical tweets about her ethnic background and 3 other female congresswomen were deliberate to try and divide Americans. She's responded after he posted for them to go back to their broken and crime-infested countries, despite all of them being American citizens. She says it's unfortunate he feels he has to rely on racism to consolidate power. Environmental campaigners have been causing disruption across 5 UK cities today, including London, Bristol and Cardiff. Extinction Rebellion staging what they call a summer uprising by trying to block roads and key junctions with colourful boats. The England cricket team's heading to Downing Street for a reception in their honour after their historic World Cup victory over New Zealand. The Queen has sent them her warmest congratulations, along with her commiserations to the runners-up. LBC weather, clear spells for most of the country through tonight, but thicker cloud and showers arriving in Northern Ireland and Western Scotland, a low of 8 degrees.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Weekday mornings from 7. LBC.
A celebration of cricket, a celebration of modern-day England when we go through the makeup of the team that triumphed yesterday. The bowler, who was born in Barbados, winning it on instructions from a captain who was born in Ireland, and the batsman who really kept us in the game was born in New Zealand. And that, to me, celebrates everything about modern-day England, and as has always been quite a hodgepodge of different people. And now, world beaters.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast.
With Xero, get your business digital ready with Xero accounting software.
LBC.
Would you and your business benefit from a personal approach from your accountant? At Barnes Rofe, of course, our partners have the technical skills needed to offer you first-class audit, tax and accounting advice. But most importantly, we'll work closely with you to help your business grow long-term. Perhaps it's time to see what we can do for you. Arrange your free consultation at barnesrofe.com. Barnes Rofe, clever accountants for business.
London, we have a problem. Our air is toxic and driving polluting vehicles is the main cause. The air that I breathe, that my friends breathe, that my mum and dad breathe, and that you breathe, can cause lifelong diseases. But there are solutions, like making our transport greener and creating better spaces to walk and cycle.
These are just some of the ways the Mayor of London and TfL are helping to improve air quality across the capital. Find out how you can make a difference too. Search Let London Breathe. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
Days and weeks can fly by, but if you're worried it's cancer, time can slow down and almost stop. That's why, with Bupa Health Insurance, you can call us about any symptom of cancer without seeing your GP first. Depending on your cover and your symptoms, we could even refer you to a consultant there and then. Bupa Health Insurance. For living. To find out more, search Bupa. Direct access services may not be available for some underwriting methods, and you may need to provide evidence the conditions are not pre-existing.
It's a sunny day in Admouth, but Tom is stuck at his computer.
Oh, Tom, you should be outside having fun.
I agree, Admiral, but I need to sort out the home insurance.
It was your wife's car insurance last month. Let me help.
Thanks to Admiral, Tom can bundle his home and car insurance and get a lovely multi-cover discount.
Car and home insurance all in one place.
What could be easier?
Admiral Multi-Cover. Rewardingly simple.
E.ON's just become the UK's largest 100% renewable electricity supplier, meaning 3.3 million E.ON homes are now backed by 100% renewable electricity. That's 100% electricity matched with 100% renewable sources. Not only is that 100% brilliant for our customers, it's 100% brilliant for the UK. So, are you ready to join the millions waking up to 100% renewable electricity every day? Find out more at eonenergy.com/renewable. E.ON. Tomorrow is on.
Goodwin Barrett helped William win £21,400 from the Halifax for his missold investment. If the Halifax or any other bank sold you an investment that lost money, start your quick assessment to discover how much you could be owed. Text GOOD to 60777. Text GOOD to 60777 now.
The Nigel Farage Show, live from Strasbourg, only on LBC.
And of course, Donald Trump, never far away from controversy, not just over Iran, but of course this tweet he put out over the weekend about 4 black Democrat lawmakers and who are very much on the left now of the Democrat Party, and Trump putting out this tweet. If they don't like our country, they can go back to where they come from. And of course, he of course has been accused of being racist for doing it, and the fact some of them were born in America further complicates it. Maybe not the greatest comment he's ever made, but within the last 5 minutes, the Washington Post have announced that he's doubling down, as he always does in a situation like this, and he rejects criticism that his weekend tweet about these minority lawmakers was racist. He says they hate our country. It doesn't concern me because many people will agree with me. And all I'm saying, if they want to leave, they can leave. And he's not backing down. He's not apologising. He never, ever does. Another story today from Brussels that you will not hear on the BBC at all. Oh, no, not at all. It doesn't fit with Project Fear, you see. It doesn't work. Ireland's EU Commissioner, Phil Hogan, has made it very, very clear that if there is a no-deal Brexit, and Brussels thinks with Boris about to win, that is becoming more likely. And he's made the point that actually, when it comes to this scare story about animals not being able to move across the border, he's made the point that the entire island of Ireland is already treated as a single entity for animal and public health issues. And both the Republic and the Northern Irish administration report directly to Brussels on this. And he said very, very clearly that the arrangement will continue between the UK and Ireland in this respect. So can I just say it one more time? No hard border when we leave the European Union, even if we leave with no deal. The Irish government don't want it. The British government don't want it. The European Commission don't want it. No one wants a hard border in Ireland, unless, of course, they're people that want a second referendum and want us to remain, and they use it again and again as an excuse. Let's get back to this debate about Iran, a very passionate, very strong debate. Jeremy Hunt, the Foreign Secretary, there today in Brussels, and he's trying to make the Iranian regime behave better, but I don't think they will. Malcolm is a new caller to this show, and he's calling from Tel Aviv in Israel. Good evening, Malcolm.
Good evening, Nigel. Pleasure to be on your show. Just a couple of points. Twice Prime Minister Netanyahu went to the UN and twice gave proof regarding what the Iranians were doing.
Yeah.
And I just don't quite understand the ignorance of people around the world, and the EU especially. And the other point I'd like to make is, I mean, I'm a British cameraman working here now.
Yep.
And you had your two previous callers were talking about apartheid in Israel. Now, I take quite umbrage to that because I quite frequently go into the West Bank as a cameraman. And I've been in there with a team of Israeli doctors and nurses working with Palestinian doctors and nurses, and they give free treatment every single Saturday. And as a Jew, for me to try and go to certain places, even the Temple Mount, I'm not allowed to, whereas the Palestinians and the Israeli Arabs have the Israeli Arabs especially, have complete freedom and have the same rights as the Israelis.
Malcolm, you've made that point very well. I'm afraid that a dislike, almost hatred of Israel is becoming increasingly common in parts of British society, and perhaps we're seeing elements of that playing out within Jeremy Corbyn's Labour Party. Malcolm, you've made that point well. Your first point, yeah, it is remarkable, isn't it, that the UN are in denial, and we had Claire from Edgware on the phone not 10 minutes ago quoting the UN, and as you say, even when proof is produced to them or our friends in Brussels, they just say, no. We're wonderful, virtuous people. We've done this deal with Iran. It is all going to be okay. Malcolm, I just think that this Iranian regime is appalling, and the more we appease it, Malcolm, the more they'll want from us.
Absolutely, 100%, Nigel.
Lovely. Thank you for your call, and wow, what a exciting but very brave job you've got out there. Thank you very much indeed. Now, Ali is a new caller from Manchester and is an Iranian. Welcome, Ali.
Hi, Nigel. Nice
Welcome. Good to hear from you. So tell me, how long have you been in the UK, Ali?
Now 15 years.
15 years, okay.
Yeah. First thing, let me just say, I'm not the favor of the regime. Whatever I'm going to make a point here is just purely being as an Iranian and considering human as a human. So one thing I just want to make a point here. Who was the closest ally before the revolution, 1979 revolution in that region?
Oh, look, our relationship, we had a great relationship with Iran. It was a wonderful country in so many ways. And it's tragic, Ali. It's tragic what's happened to it.
Absolutely. What I'm trying to make a point here, this nuclear issue was not only start with this new regime, but also it was there when the Shah of Iran was ruling the country. Mm-hmm. So back in the days, having Iran as a nuclear country, it wasn't allowed even during the Shah time. So the question is, why when Shah of Iran, who was the closest ally to West and United States, why they didn't allow to have...
Well, that was all to do, Ali, but nuclear non-proliferation, even with states we quite like, that was very much a policy of the time, and it was kind of, we've got it, but you can't have it, and we could argue the morality of that over and over and over. But Ali, when you look at this regime, when you look at this regime as opposed to the Shah, okay, you look at this regime, I mean, the UN may be in denial, but everybody else says they've breached the terms of this agreement. Isn't the Trump approach right, that if you break a deal, then the other side should break it too?
Can I ask you a question, if you don't mind? When did they breach the agreements? Didn't they start breaching agreements after Mr. Trump moving out from JCPOA?
No, I think the general feeling is that actually ever since that deal, ever since a slight opening up of markets and trade, that actually they've been using some of the money from that to fund terror groups all over the Middle East, and that at their production facilities at Nantes and elsewhere, they've just gone on breaking the rules. Do we have definitive proof of what day they actually did this? I don't know. But are you arguing that Trump's election has actually provoked Iran into behaving like this?
Well, to be fair, I think so, because from where he started campaigning for his presidency, he starts saying, "I will come out of this deal." So if the country sign a contract with another country, not only in between two countries, but also between others as well, hence 5+1. So if there is a deal being signed by 6 countries and 5 countries, they believe that this deal is working and Iran is complying with whatever is the deal saying, and one country coming out. So you put yourself...
Jeremy, Ali, hang on. Let me stop you a second.
Sure.
Jeremy Hunt wants to put this deal back on track, right?
Sure.
But Jeremy Hunt accepts they've broken the terms of a deal. Let me ask you, Ali, quickly. Do you think we should just carry on as we are, or is it right that we demand the Americans, that the Iranians make significant concessions, or we go the America route? What would you do in 20 seconds?
Nigel,
what would you do right now?
The alternative. Okay, let's say we are not doing that, right? What is the alternative? The alternative is going to war.
Well,
There's
not necessarily.
No other solution.
Oh, you can have bad relations without going to war, Ali.
Well, you can't just put the country on the corner and sanction them and expecting the country to just stand still. No, the country was in sanction for past 40 years. People are, I'm not saying starving, but you know how much it will cost you to become a millionaire in Iran? 500 quid. To become a millionaire in Iran. So let's put
as an Iranian, Ali, as an Iranian, would you like to see this Iranian regime still in place in 5 years' time?
No, absolutely not. But what I'm trying to say, the alternative is to just make the people raise and start the revolution again, as your other previous caller mentioned. Yeah. You can't starving people inside the country. You can't believe the gap in between the richest and the poor is so massive that people in Iran, some of the people in Iran, they don't even have food to eat. I can say there is a fact.
Ali, listen. I've listened to the passion of your call and your sense of the tragedy that is befalling tens of millions of Iranian people, and I share that sympathy. And I thank you for the call. Where I disagree with Ali is I don't think breaking off this deal means we have to go to war. I really don't believe that. Ollie from Basingstoke says, Nigel, the issue with Iran just shows the UN is not fit for purpose. And a lot of people do actually think that. You're listening to The Nigel Farage Show, live here from the European Parliament in Strasbourg. It is now 6:46 and time for the news headlines with Lisa Aziz.
President Trump's refused to apologise about controversial tweets saying rival Democratic congresswomen from ethnic minorities should go back to their crime-infested countries after he faced heavy criticism. Theresa May is hosting a special reception for England's cricketers at Downing Street tonight, following their historic World Cup victory over New Zealand in one of the most dramatic finals ever seen. Hundreds of environmental campaigners from Extinction Rebellion are staging what they call a summer uprising in 5 UK cities by trying to block key roads with colourful boats, including the Strand outside the Royal Courts of Justice in London. LBC weather, clear spells for most of the UK tonight. Thicker cloud and showers, though, arriving in Northern Ireland and western Scotland later, a low of 8 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm J. Louise Knight, and there's just been an accident on the Kent stretch of the M25. It's anti-clockwise between Swanley at 3 and Junction 2 at the A2. One lane is closed. There's also an accident anti-clockwise between 7 at the M23 and 6 at Godston. One lane is closed there. Now, in the centre of town, the demonstration has moved from the Strand. It's now blocking Waterloo Bridge, so causing huge delays. And on the trains, London Overground remains suspended from Hackney Downs to Chingford, as well as from Willesden Junction to Clapham Junction. Southern can't run from Shepherd's Bush to Watford Junction, and South Western are suspended from Virginia Water to Weybridge.
Coming up at 7 on LBC, Ian Dale.
Coming up at 8, we'll be having a live studio debate between the two people vying for the leadership of the Lib Dems, Ed Davey and Joe Swinson.
Ian Dale on LBC.
Strongbow presents Rob and Chris live at their local.
We'll always be together, however far it seems. We'll always be together.
And just as these two light up the room, in pubs around the nation, refreshing people are spreading laughter, lifting moods and bringing people together. Here's to them. Strongbow, refreshing people since 1960.
Sharing credit card details on scraps of loose paper. Finding battered receipts in the wash. Stressing out your accountant. Expense management doesn't have to be stuck in the dark ages. Say hello to Soldo, company cards that do your expenses for you. Give your team prepaid cards to simply spend, snap the receipt, and that's that. Spend smarter. See the light at soldo.com.
If your boiler needs replacing, listen to this. Right now, LS1 Boiler Installation could install a brand new fuel-efficient Worcester Bosch boiler with £250 off. What's more, there's zero deposit to pay up front and 0% interest-free finance. Thinking of a new boiler? Think LS1 Boiler Installation. Get an instant quote at ls1boilerinstallation.co.uk. Conditions apply.
Hi, I'm back. I just set a personal best on my park run. Feels great.
That's lovely, Mike. I think you've earned the right to put all the bins out.
Hey?
With Vitality Life Insurance, you get properly rewarded when you're active. In fact, you could save over £775 in discounts and rewards from our partners. Join over 1 million customers. Just search Vitality Life. Vitality. Positively different. Annual savings available with certain plans and are dependent on members' usage of rewards available. Terms and conditions apply.
We were going to tell you all of the reasons to buy a Volkswagen Caddy, but we've only got 30 seconds. And we know you're busy. So we'll keep it simple. The Caddy, with 3 years of roadside assistance, 2 free services, and 1 rental per month of just £189. 3, 2, 1. Easy. The Volkswagen Caddy, just £189 a month on contract hire. Volkswagen Commercial Vehicles. Working with you. Business users only. No ownership, excluding VAT at 20%. 48-month contract hire. £1,134 initial rental. Exclusions, restrictions and T's and C's apply. Service plan covers first 2 consecutive services. Available until the 30th of September 2019. Volkswagen Finance.
Renewing your tax credits is too important to forget. So here's an unforgettable reminder.
Don't forget to renew your tax credits. It's very, very, very important.
Renew your tax credits by the 31st of July, or your payments will stop. Go to gov.uk/manage your tax credits today.
Have you ever bought an investment sold by Barclays, Halifax, Lloyds, Santander or any other bank or financial advisor? Investments like stocks and shares ISAs, investment bonds and certain types of pension can be risky. If you lost money with one of these investments, you could be owed thousands of pounds in compensation. Even if you no longer have the investment or the paperwork, here at Goodwin Barrett we can still help. To start your free assessment with Goodwin Barrett, text SOLD to 66777. That's SOLD to 66777.
This is LBC, live from Strasbourg, the Nigel Farage Show. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag Farage on LBC.
Jeremy Hunt in Brussels working with his EU partners to try and save the Iran nuclear deal. The Americans having already broken it, and a very bad regime, we can all agree, based in Tehran. Lots of emotions around this subject. Will on YouTube says, I don't trust the EU to sort this out. They aren't a country. It's not their job. But why couldn't Russia or China exert some influence? Well, China, I think, got a few problems of their own, and Russia will not do so. Marina from Canterbury echoes my sentiments very strongly when she says, I can't believe the Trump haters prefer the Iranian regime to him. Yeah, I think that's very, very well said. Alan says, appeasing Iran, any fool can see. The Americans want to starve them into a failed state, hoping they make a mistake so they can strike with Israel. Believe me, I was once a Trump supporter. Let's go to Ross, who's calling from Oswestry in Shropshire. Good evening, Ross.
Hi, Nigel. How are you?
I am well. I'm just mystified.
What is this business about knocking Trump all the time? You know, why don't this country that I live in, the United Kingdom, start to understand they're our allies?
They are, and they're also, Ross, a democracy. You see, Trump said in the election campaign, I will move the embassy to Jerusalem in Israel, and he does so. And people say, oh, isn't it dreadful? And Trump says in the election, the Iranians have broken the deal, I'm going to break the deal that Obama signed. He promised the American electorate he'd do it, and guess what, Ross? He's done it, and they all say, isn't it dreadful? I just wish our government kept their promises.
Well, we got Jeremy Hunt at the moment. You know, he's standing next for the next PM. God help us. God help us.
Well, who's to say? I mean,
Nigel, if this is his negotiating skills, what is he going to do if he ever gets his hands on number 10?
Oh, but Ross, he's an entrepreneur. He's told us that.
Is that what he is?
Yes, he can sort it all out. Absolutely.
You know, look at everything he's touched, right? The health service, a mess. He's now in charge of the Home Office, obviously, World Affairs. Mm-hmm. The guy never replies to any letters. He never communicates with anybody. He's Theresa May in drag, by the way.
To the point, Ross. To the point. I know you're enjoying yourself, but to the point.
I'm enjoying myself, Nigel.
Is he wrong to be there in Brussels today?
Yes.
Negotiating. He is. Yes. He's wrong. Okay.
Why are we even talking to Europe?
Well, fair enough, Ross. Thank you. I know, I get you. I'm going to let you go. Thank you. But I tell you what, even worse than that, David Lidington, effectively the Deputy Prime Minister, guess where he was yesterday? 14th of July, he was in Paris, Bastille Day, big military parade led by Macron, which he said was about, because 10 different countries took part, he said the parade was showing that European defence is the future, and RAF aeroplanes took part in it. Mr. Lidington, your government, of which you're Deputy Prime Minister, apparently wants to deliver Brexit. Why are you supporting the creation of a new European army? Clearly, you want us to be a part of it. I simply couldn't believe it. David is a new caller from Barnet. David, good evening.
Good evening, Nigel. Nigel, I cannot believe the nonsense you are spraying on radio. It is absolutely pathetic. It is.
Oh, right.
You know,
Very good.
Iran was complying with the nuclear deal. Everybody knows this, besides you and Donald Trump. I cannot see.
And Jeremy Hunt. David.
How can you actually say Iran, broke the nuclear deal? Iran was compliant and was verified by the IAEA 15 times that they were in full compliance with that deal. Now, how can you please explain to me and the rest of the listeners how it was Iran that broke that nuclear deal?
All the intelligence reports, and some of them coming from America, yes, but some from the UK too, and believed by the British government, including Jeremy Hunt, not just me and Donald Trump, is that on two counts. One, that they've used the benefits of a loosening of sanctions to back yet more terrorist fundamentalist groups all across the Middle East, number one, and number two, that actually the Iranian enrichment continues apace. Now, both of those things. Now, I understand.
Nigel, what you fail to understand is that nuclear deal was only about Iran's nuclear program. It had nothing to do with anything else. It was purely for that, and it was verified and it was confirmed by the IAEA, with very stringent checks that they do. Iran, in fact, have had the most stringent checks compared to any other country part of the NPT. So, how can you say when it was actually confirmed over 15 times that, they're in full compliance, and then all of a sudden, America pulls out of the
Well,
deal,
there's clearly there is clearly, David. There is clearly two sides to this argument. Jeremy Hunt has obviously got similar kind of briefings to ones that I've had. Either way, David, they're an appalling regime in Tehran, aren't they?
Well, look, I have my disagreements with the regime. I'm not a great fan, but we're not talking about the regime. We're talking about the nuclear program here now. We are. Right. So, there's so many other regimes, that I don't disagree with, but we don't talk about them here. So, if we are talking about the nuclear program,
David,
let's keep it, let's talk
when
about
they menace
the
British shipping. When they menace British shipping, we have an issue, don't we?
Well, look, you cannot tear up a nuclear deal which was signed, which took, over a decade to actually.
But you can't menace British shipping without us doing something.
Look, you cannot tear up a deal and expect them to sit aside.
You cannot menace British shipping and expect us to stand aside and do nothing, David.
Look, are we actually talking about the Iranian nuclear deal or all the other,
We're talking about our relationship with Iran as a country of which the nuclear deal is a part. That's what we're talking about. David, I'm sorry, we are out of time. I've got to move on. Tomorrow, here in Strasbourg, a big vote. Ursula von der Leyen, who's been put up as Jean-Claude Juncker's successor. There'll be a vote about an hour before I come on air tomorrow as to whether she gets that job or not. It is far from certain. If the socialist group don't support her, she will fail. Then Boris Johnson or Jeremy Hunt would have almost no one to negotiate with over the course of the next few months, and Brussels would be in a proper crisis. You've been listening to the Nigel Farage Show live from Strasbourg. I'm back tomorrow at 6. At 10 tonight, it's Tom Swarbrick. But up next, it's Ian Dale. Good evening, Ian.
Good evening, Nigel. Some brilliant scenes in Downing Street just now. The England World Cup cricket team going into Downing Street, shaking hands with Theresa May on the doorstep. You were there yesterday. I saw you in a resplendent white suit.
I was, and I managed to get home, Ian, without red wine being spilt all over it, which must be a first, particularly after we'd won. It was a great event, and it's terrific they're there at Downing Street. And isn't it great that actually millions of people who'd never watched a cricket game in their lives did yesterday?
Absolutely right. Nigel, thank you very much indeed. Well, coming up over the next 3 hours, at 8 we have a leadership head-to-head. No, it is not Jeremy Hunt versus Boris Johnson. There is another leadership race going on, and it's for the Liberal Democrats. We'll be joined by Ed Davey and Joe Swinson for that hour. They'll be taking your calls as well. After 9, a new Labour Party campaign has been set up to urge a Labour government to ban private schools. It's even got the endorsement of former Labour leader Ed Miliband. What do you think of the fact that the campaign has today slagged off the England World Cup winning team because 43% of its players were privately educated?